What's going on, everybody at home? I didn't mean to have the draft board up already, but
Nah.
you saw what you saw, and if you don't like it, well, whatever. Just
No, no,
don't
no.
like
Stick
it.
around,
Who doesn't like the NFL draft?
right?
Have an opinion. It's okay.
Best of the drafts, right? If we had to decide between which one's the best draft, it's the NFL. Not even close, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't
Yeah.
even tell you when the MLB draft takes place.
I think they do it in the middle of the season because it's such a bunch of bollocks.
Well, the MLB draft, you also sign players when they're like young teenagers. So like those guys don't get drafted. So or you go to like Korea or Japan and you sign those guys. So there's not a lot of uh like credibility with the MLB draft. And then like the other drafts, like I mean no one's as popular as football.
Very rarely does a late round pick in an NBA draft actually matter. It's usually just the first like 15 to 20. Even saying the 20 is even kind of stretching it sometimes.
Right.
If you if you have a week to kill, you can watch the whole MLB draft.
Yeah, don't they go by like hundreds of picks?
Yeah, they go into like I think they have like 40 rounds, 45 rounds, something like that.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable. And like they'll get drafted and like you said, they'll go into like the farm system and they won't see the field for like 7 years. Then all of a sudden we'll have a rookie at 25 making their debut. Like what?
that's my gripe with Major League Baseball because like you get drafted and then you pitch in the farm system for so many damn years, but then if you don't like actually have a chance to pitch against like major league pitchers, then what are you doing? Like you can only do so well against you can only do so well against like your opposition in double A or single A for so many years before it's like, come on, like go to the next one. And then but there's a difference though. Like you can be good against these guys. You can pitch there for 7 years, and then when you get to the MLB, you're gonna stink. Just find that out early. Like I don't know. That's just
throw them right in.
But yeah, I mean, the NFL draft is the most popular one because it's football. So
The NBA draft is pretty cool, especially with the lottery. The ping pong balls.
yeah, that's true. I mean, like the NBA draft is like like it's risky, right? Because you don't know who you're gonna get, or like you don't know what pick you're gonna get beforehand. So you're gonna have to like hope and pray if you're a bad team that you're gonna potentially get one of the one of the better picks fall into your lap. But yeah, that's it could be a shit show. Like if you don't draft well, then there's less picks. There's only 2 rounds, right? So if you don't do well one draft, that you can't correct that potentially for a whole year.
And the NBA, I mean, teams give away draft picks like it's candy, baby. Might as well be Halloween the way they give out these draft picks.
Unless you're
Second round
Danny
pick?
Ainge.
Oh yeah.
Hoard those picks, Danny Ainge.
And don't get Anthony Davis or anything, or don't even bother. Every big time free agent, everyone's like, "Oh, is this a possible move for the Celtics to make?" And then they sign Tristan Thompson.
Right.
Hi, Elizabeth. I didn't
Sorry.
say hi. I feel bad.
Oh, it's okay. You just did right now, so yeah. Pat you on the back. Okay, so I could get rid of this comment. Thanks for tuning in, Lord Lizzie. So this is the NFL draft show where we talk about some, we'll talk about the teams and who they drafted just for a little bit of context, and then we'll give you guys some of our opinions on not only who the teams drafted, but how it might affect them next season, and then whether we like it or not, because there were some questionable and like really good draft picks this year, and it was. I didn't look. I meant to look, but this was like an insane draft. There was like trades everywhere, like first round, second round, later rounds. Like I don't know how many trades actually did happening, but it felt like quite a bit. And like you were not able to like keep up with it at a certain point. So
no shot. Some teams did really well, and some teams, whoo, stink. Dunk it up.
They whiffed.
Jesus. Can smell their draft from here. It's so terrible. Jesus Christ.
So bear with us here. I know this is a lot of words, and we're not here to just read all these words. We're just going to talk about
we'll run through some of these.
So we might let some of our opinions slip a little bit before we get to the end there, but it is what it is. So Zaven Collins was the Cardinals' first pick here, followed by Rondell Moore. A couple of guys that I don't know a little bit about. Tay Gowen, who I liked coming out of UCF. James Wiggins, Michael Monet. This is the only list I'll read fully here. Then you guys can just kind of read. We'll just pick apart a couple names that we like here and there. My opinion is they went high on Zaven Collins when they didn't need to. Potentially, and I'm going to talk about them because I'm going to rant about them. But yeah, that was a silly pick in my opinion.
Yeah, a little high.
Just based off of value to pick.
Yeah. I had them going. I had Zaven Collins. I think we all did pretty much. I don't know where you had him, Ace, but me and Andrew definitely had him going to Tampa Bay. I like the Rondell Moore pickup because Rondell Moore. Slot receiver. Yep, he'll be playing quite a bit there. I mean, Jesus, they are loaded over there with receivers in Arizona.
Yeah, well, it's true. The Atlanta Falcons here showing up next. Kyle Pitts, Jalen Mayfield. For their line. I'm not 100% familiar with a lot of these guys. I didn't cover Atlanta in some of my picks. A bad team last year, for what it was worth. Offensively did well, so Kyle Pitts adds to that dimension to further their chances of being offensively good. But they were one of the worst teams defending the pass last year. If you wanted to play against them in fantasy, you just even if it was a
chalk it up, baby.
Even if it was a guy you would never draft, get that guy and maybe stack him with a tight end, right? And
they play in the dome. You could run him back with anybody there. If you Calvin Ridley was a awesome run back option the entire year. Kind of interesting. Kyle Pitts was no brainer, best pick right there. That's the one they should have went with. I also like Jalen Mayfield, the tackle coming out of Michigan. Little interesting they decided to go Richie Grant instead of Trayvon Moehrig there, where Trayvon Moehrig was still there. Didn't get that at all. Did you get any read on that, Andrew, or were you kind of like me? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
I don't know. I guess for the NFL, teams will just tell you oh, that was our guy. We liked them, so we took him. But I mean, popular opinion and film study and all the things we've been reading about Trayvon Moehrig, he was supposed to be the first safety off the board by a large margin. So to see him be the third safety off the board probably wasn't a lot of fun for the Vegas bettors who had the -400 line on him. But I guess like I said, I guess teams just like who they like, and I guess they decided to take him. But I would have went Moehrig there.
Richie Grant is a different player. He has upside for turnovers. So I mean, potentially that's what I kind of gathered looking at him. Because I was looking at Tay Gowen from UCF as well. Richard Grant's not a bad player, but yeah, Trayvon's draft stock did fall, and not 100% sure why. We did find out Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah fell because he has an irregular heartbeat, so that kind of shed some light onto why he fell to the
26 picks, absolutely ridiculous. They let the freaking Cleveland Browns get him. What are we doing? Golly, man. So he's got a regular heart, bro. We'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
Doesn't regard 26 picks, Asa. He went a whole round more than he should have gone. Cleveland was one of my better drafts. We'll get to it.
But he went to a team that has good coaching. Stefanski's good.
Oh yeah.
And he'll be able to develop there. We're already talking about Cleveland. They're not even on the board yet. But we'll talk about that. And it looks like you have them as one of your teams that you like there. So the Baltimore Ravens here had 2 first-round picks, traded their tackle Orlando Brown to the Chiefs, and got the Chiefs' 31st pick this year. Took Jason Owe. To me, Jason Owe wasn't the best edge guy on the board, so he was the third guy to go. There was probably a couple other names that I would have maybe taken over Owe. Odofe Owe, if his name is his African name that he didn't want to now wants to be really public about, which is cool. And then Baltimore, needs, even though you're gonna hear it, they're a run team, and they're fantastic at it. Rashad Bateman's a nice player for them because, like as I mentioned in the last episode we did, he's gonna get them good volume. He's gonna get them good stats, and they'll be able to translate that. Even even though it doesn't necessarily like maybe fare well for like fantasy purposes for us betting people at home, for them as a team, it should improve them. But yeah.
Yeah, you take Owe, who didn't have a sack all last year. Interesting. Andrew mentioned the Daniil Hunter thing. If he ends up being a Daniil Hunter, then by all means, it's going to be a slam dunk. But kind of like to see the production there, too, especially when you had Azeez Ojulari. You see he went all the way to 50 to the Giants? What the halibut? What is going on there?
Right.
And then Bateman's great. I thought Bateman, I actually had him ranked higher than Terrace Marshall, but I went Terrace Marshall here for the size and the ability to play on the outside because put Hollywood Brown in the slot. Woo! Baltimore. Give this guy some easy stuff. Jiminy. I mean, the only play he ever makes is on a broken play. Lamar Jackson finding him open, he's scrambling for 20 seconds trying to find somebody. God, give him some easy stuff.
I've now told myself every time Jay gets all pumped up, I'm gonna react. So if you see me reacting, that's because my boy Jay right below me is getting pumped. So
we're gonna burn some calories if I'm gonna get pumped, baby.
We're gonna
like every 15 seconds here. I'll get.
We're gonna burn calories. We're gonna burn calories. I said calories. We're gonna burn calories. I'm gonna not know how to speak, and we're gonna also pop your eardrums. So. Moving on. The Buffalo Bills are circling the wagons. They did. I'll be real with you. I'm kind of in between on this draft. I don't necessarily think that it. We did a fantastic job. I think that they taking Russo and taking Basham where they did. I think they had great value at those picks. So they looked at those picks and they're like. We'll take it, And we talk a lot about how, teams are, good teams can take those kinds of risks, right? They could just keep building depth. My personal opinion was we needed edge guys to attack and get to Patrick Mahomes. Arguably, it might be harder to do so this year because, the Chiefs' O-line is a lot different and has more depth now. Maybe that would have, kind of gotten us to think maybe we should go cornerback with one of these picks. Again, I think they took the two best guys off the board. If that, ruffles some feathers, so be it. Two picks that
I like it.
Gregory Rousseau, I'm just watching him, talking and how he acts, and he acts like he's hungry and he wants it, and he looks like a good kid. So I think with coaching, he'll do well there. And then Carlos Basham is, he's. They call him Boogie, call him Boo. He's a nice player. What I will take away from this draft though is they, I think three of these guys were team captains. So I do like that. I think DeMar Hamlin and our first two guys were all captains for the team. And then DeMar Hamlin, he said in the tweet, he's like, I don't care if I got to clean toilets. I'll be whatever I got to do to be a part of this team. So the Bills' obvious needs were to beef up their defense because of how it kind of fell flat against the Chiefs, and on some other occasions, right? Some other teams were able to pick us apart. So they did a little bit of that, and I'm happy with that. A couple of project players, a couple of guys that can come in. Marquez Stevenson is a speedster, so he'll come in next year and probably return kicks for us. Isaiah McKenzie will probably return punts for us because he returned one last year on the one day that he took over for Andre Roberts. So it'll be nice to see Marquez get some playing time. I think DeMar Hamlin will probably find his way on the special teams right away, and then that we Spencer Brown, Tom Doyle, and Gregory Rousseau are all 6'8" and bigger. These guys
huge,
are humongous. So, but speaking on the tackles specifically here, they nice size. And then it looks like the Bills kind of had an idea. We want really tall, athletic, potentially riskier guys, but in that sense, but not necessarily super proven, but super coachable, and Josh Allen likes to run around a lot, so you gotta have some guys that can kind of match that, but I like the draft. I don't know we want to keep talking about them because I talked enough. But
I'll be very quick with it. I love what they did with the first 4 picks. They got 2 players who are going to get to the quarterback, and then they got 2 players who are going to protect your quarterback as the franchise guy. You can't really fault them for that. Bash him in the late second round, very, very late second round. Someone had him at a mid second round projection. Getting him there was really nice. And then Russo probably went a little later than he should have. But again, good value for those. Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle, people are saying that they were a little early off the board. But again, you got depth at guys who are going to protect your franchise guy. And obviously that's going to be the MO going forward. Like getting your guys, you guys already did a good job in the offseason getting Emmanuel Sanders. You get your guys players, you can catch the ball, protect your quarterback, get the other team's quarterback. So again, it's just a good franchise making good decisions in my opinion.
Carolina Panthers up here. I actually liked what they did. Like Andrew was spot on calling J.C. Horn here. Terrace Marshall, fell to them in the second round. Nice pick there. Nice to. I'm sure Sam Darnold is just gushing because he left a team that didn't didn't necessarily seem like they knew what they were doing, and it was kind of obvious by the results. And this team didn't draft a quarterback. They didn't think of, his replacement wasn't picked, right? They drafted with their, second pick a wide receiver, their third pick a tackle, and their fourth pick a tight end, right? So, those 3 picks in mind for Sam Darnold, I'm assuming, because you have to kind of think about what are we going to do? We made this trade, right? We need this guy to be successful. And 3 of your first 4 picks, J.C. Horn being a magnificent player on the defensive side. Yeah, I think they scored real nice with their first 4 picks here. Chuba Hubbard is a nice running back out of Oklahoma State too. They have the Mike Davis role to be filled too. So from what it looks like, he should be able to fill that. And fill it pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't mind the J.C. Horn pick. Not where I would have went. I guess I was just way more bullish on Rashawn Slater. I really thought that this was a perfect spot for him. I mean, he's proven, dog. Both tackle spots, did it at a big time program. I thought that was going to be where they were leaning. I can see why they went corner. I mean, J.C. Horn's one of the better ones in the draft. I personally like Surtain more, but just pick your flavor at that point. Getting Terrace Marshall as far down in the second round as they got him was surprising and big time for them, considering the fact that both DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are going to be free agents next year. I have them. My money would be on them keeping Robbie Anderson because of the Temple connection with Matt Rule. And DJ Moore being the odd guy out there, and then Terrace Marshall becomes the starting wide receiver on the other side there. They could also very well keep DJ Moore. I mean, I don't think he'll be super expensive. So that's a possibility to try to help out Sam Darnold. But yeah, the J.C. Horn pick is fine. I mean, again, I just think I was a little more bullish on Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, I got you.
They drafted one of the largest human beings on earth in the sixth round, Deontay Brown. I don't know if you guys have seen a picture of him, but he is just
he's a Diet Coke machine.
An absolute hoss of a fella.
He has to wear he doesn't he wear knee guards or whatever, so while he plays, so he doesn't break something. I don't know,
believe it or break someone else's something.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, he's one of the guys you want getting off the bus. So when you're, hey, football player, athlete,
the first guy off the bus.
Oh yeah, baby, yeah, because I'm looking at the exit of that bus and I'm seeing who walks off there, and I'm gonna know what kind of day we're having a lot of times just by seeing who's off the bus. That's a dude I don't want seeing off the bus, bro. Big boy.
Right. I like what Matt Rule did though. I mean, I know it obviously, it's a team effort there, but I thought
Chicago balled. Chicago balled.
They nailed it.
100%. By all means, I should have.
We can keep this pretty simple here.
Yeah.
You drafted your franchise quarterback. You got him a tackle. These two should be paired up if Tevin Jenkins pans out for the rest of, Justin Fields' tenure here in Chicago. And you got him weapons. You got weapons to Chicago, which, were somewhat lackluster in some regards. Not that your boys, your Chicago Comets and
no Komet slander here, baby.
No, not that they didn't pan out. Not that they didn't pan out, but they're going to have a bigger stage to do so next year because Justin Fields is there, right? So they're going to instantly get a little bit more pressure put on them, and then so you just put some more role players around them. They took two linemen, so I'm pretty sure Larry Brown will squeeze in as a backup, and Tevin Jenkins has the potential to start day one for them if need be. And Herbert out of Virginia Tech is a nice running back that they got in the 6th round. A lot of the running backs, like I actually don't mind, and so he can slot in as RB2 pretty easily, especially with Tariq Cohen missing like 99% of last season due to injury. So getting a little up there in age, it's good for them to get a little bit of running back depth there.
Yeah, so I was all on board. I thought the draft was great. I thought getting Tevin Jenkins was great. Getting Justin Fields was great. I love Justin Fields. Thought he was the second best quarterback prospect in this draft. Not even close. Don't even know why he's still there at that point at 11, but go off. Why did they cut Charles Leno Jr.? I mean, Tevin Jenkins comes in, plays right tackle. Charles Leno Jr. plays left tackle, and you're good, right? You have bookend tackles for Justin Fields. Didn't get that today. I didn't really read into it too much on if it was a cap situation.
Maybe.
I believe it was.
The draft just ended, bro. You should be okay with the cap now. Like, are you? This is something you should have done before the draft. Like, now we're gonna cut a starting offensive tackle after we get our franchise quarterback and Tevin Jenkins.
It's still pretty fresh, but I would have to imagine that there's some other logic behind it that caused that to happen. I mean, Ryan Pace has not been the GM. Yeah. He's not been the greatest GM in terms of taking swings, but he's been pretty smart in terms of like the personnel that he keeps in-house and stuff. I mean, they did get rid of Kyle Fuller, but he was going to be expensive.
Hodgepodge.
So, I don't know. There's got to be something.
It's Ryan Pace. Egregious. When you bring in the quarterback talent that he brings in, and you're going to tell me he cuts Chris Leno Jr., ridiculous. I'm done with this guy, Ryan Pace. Oh, my Lord. No, seriously, Andrew. Seriously. This guy brings in Andy Dalton. He brings in Blaine Gabbert. What's that? Mike Glennon. He brings in Mike Glennon and Nick Foles. These are the talent that this guy's evaluating to bring in. And then you cut your starting tackle? Excuse me. You just did a great job. Bang up job. You get your quarterback, you get your tackle, and then go ahead and cut your other starting tackle. Genius by Ryan Pace. Genius by Mr. Andy Dalton signer, Ryan Pace.
Well said. Cincinnati Bengals drafted the proverbial best wide receiver from this draft, but who knows, right? Justin Jefferson wasn't taken as the top wide receiver in last year's draft and whooped some candy ass. So the Bengals obviously rebuilding, right? They're not there yet. I don't look at this draft as we did enough to put us into conversation with Cleveland or Baltimore. I just look at this draft as you have to just keep building blocks, and maybe next year you focus on some of your needs a little bit better. So that's was clear as day with their line. Though they did draft 4 linemen, so hopefully some of these guys stick, and maybe we'll have a little bit better opinion of it going into this season.
That's what I assumed they were going to do.
Yeah, they could have drafted a 10-year starter at left tackle in Penei Sewell, but instead they went and got Joey Burrow's best friend. I mean, I get the pick, and I don't hate the pick, but I mean, the dude was getting hit left and right. He just tore his ACL. Can we get someone to protect this guy?
Maybe we need to do an NFL live stream where we just get some of this out too. But Aaron Rodgers, it does not want to play in Green Bay. So I mean, I get it. If you think Joey Burrow, if he's your future, Jamar Chase, you tell him, hey, we drafted your guy. Like, you better not be a bitch about certain things going forward into the future.
How about you tell Joey Burrow to look down? I got a scar just to match it, and look at his knee. And remember why we didn't draft Jamar Chase. And instead, we drafted literally the best prospect, the third best prospect in the entire draft, in Penei Sewell, who may not play left tackle right now, but is going to be a left tackle starting in this league for 10 plus years. And he went all the way to Detroit. It's egregious. It's ridiculous. It's fine. You got your guy's guy. But, I mean, dude, he's getting wrecked out there.
Yeah, that's why they drafted 4 offensive linemen and signed one in the offseason and got Joe Burrow his favorite target. But let's move on.
Okay, you get Joe Burrow his favorite target. I get it, but he's got a lot of playmakers.
Speaking of the team that they have to face up against, the Cleveland Browns took Greg Newsome, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with their first 2 picks. And for all accounts, this looks like 2 really solid picks for them. They will be in close games against Baltimore and the Steelers. from what it looks like, and these two guys are just going to go in and play. Who knows if Owusu Koromoa plays day one, but that's someone that we talked about that they can build up. But for what it looks like, they did a pretty good job with the draft. And then
he's playing day one. Yeah,
Dimitri Felton, that's your mom's friend's son, and they took him in the 6th round there. So with the 211 pick, Dimitri Felton, you do you, bro. Get out there and win some snaps, because the Cleveland Browns last season, they were rolling out wide receivers that we didn't really know that well, and they produced. So Dimitri Felton, nice kid out of UCLA, has a chance there to put up some potential stats sometime this season.
He had a good end to his collegiate career. Saw a lot of field time. Had just under 1,000 yards from scrimmage. You mentioned local kid. Yeah, he's right out here from Temecula, Great Oak High School. So nice to see some local people getting their shot in the NFL. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I can't even fit all these Dallas Cowboys picks on here. Jeez.
Yeah, they had a lot.
Okay, so we're going to cut off some of their name here. Micah Parsons, they drafted back to get him. Nice pick there. Kelvin Joseph was a cornerback that I was looking at in the 2nd round for my Buffalo Bills. I like some of what he can bring. For what it's worth, I don't know what the game plan was, but they drafted 2 linebackers in this draft, so it's cool. But they drafted Jabril Cox, who fell, and they drafted Micah Parsons. I don't know where all these linebackers are going to play. They needed some more cornerback help, a little bit. I know Jay said that they did pretty decent last year, but when you're facing off against teams like the Giants, who just stacked up a bunch of offensive talent, you got to kind of match that in a way, especially when the Dallas Cowboys in the free agency beefed up some of their offense. So you kind of had to beef up your defense a little bit. They took a couple of guys here that I was a little questionable about, but a lot of names. I don't know if all these guys are going to make the roster, but
they had a lot of draft picks. One thing I will say is they did not pick up the 5th-year option on Leighton Vander Esch today, so they had to do that today. Didn't pick that up, so that leads you to believe that he's going to be out the door here at the end of the year. So Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox probably are what that was kind of leading up to. So just a thought. Leighton Vander Esch. I actually like Leighton Vander Esch. He just gets injured all the time.
Right.
Sean Lee Light.
That's probably their thought process there, right? They did. Sean Lee did retire this year, so maybe that's why they went on and got 2 linebackers. Denver Broncos here, taking Patrick Surtain with the 9th pick.
What are these guys doing? What is
Javonte Williams?
I thought they had a great draft, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Javonte Williams, with running back out of North Carolina. Some said he was the best runner in this draft, so we'll see how that pans out for them. Quinn Miners, silly guy out of Wisconsin Whitewater. If you haven't seen pictures of him, this guy's he's a clown. Not in a bad way, but he's a clown. I'm not. Denver wasn't in it last season. It goes back to the quarterback. We can get to that. We'll get to that a little bit later because I have something to say about that.
Team Cheekies.
But what are they gonna do with this? They're gonna just play good defense and run the ball. That's not necessarily the MO anymore. So
I would have went Micah Parsons there, bro. I really would have. I get why you went Patrick Surtain. I mean, he was at 10th too, but you just got Fuller. Their secondary is not bad. Their linebacking core is actually bad. And Micah Parsons was the best defensive player in the draft, in my opinion. Clearly not their opinion because they had their pick of the lot and they went Surtain, but just interesting.
Yeah. The Detroit Lions here took Penei Sewell, dropped to them. They were pumped. Good for them. Got their guy. And I didn't want them to take necessarily have to take a player like a wide receiver or a quarterback right away, because they just made that trade with the Rams and got Jared Goff. So just build some pieces and maybe look to the future to your quarterback. But this team is in rebuild mode. They I guess if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, they have a shot. Anybody has a shot in that division if Aaron Rodgers isn't there. Most likely it's not the Detroit Lions because they don't know how to play their running backs
to win.
Well.
Yeah, they don't like Johnny to win DFS money. Dude, yeah. I think if you would have asked Detroit before the draft, before the first round, and said, hey, what are your percentage that you think Penei Sewell was there at 7 for you. They'd have said like 10%, bro. Like 10%. Literally. Like they never in a million years thought that he was going to get to 7. I can guarantee.
Yeah, that would have been 10% would have been wishful thinking, to be quite honest with you.
Seriously. Like the fact that Miami went Jalen Waddle, if you get your guy, you get your guy. I know he was a former Tua guy, over there in Bama, but I mean, their line's not great. And I think Penei Sewell is, okay, he's the 3rd best prospect in the draft. The whole draft.
Yeah, he was highly graded. I liked, for just to talk about someone other than Penei Sewell here, I like Afatu Melanfuwu, another cornerback that I was looking for the Bills, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC. Also another guy that I kind of like too. So a couple of pieces that they picked up kind of, on day 3, or day 2 and day 3, that looked pretty okay. But yeah, rebuild team. They didn't have a ton of picks this year, so I think they did pretty decent, especially since they got Penei Sewell. Like, you can't go wrong there. Like, he should fit in with kneecapping coach over there. So Green Bay Packers here. We can call this the shit show probably. Taking Eric Stokes, taking Josh Myers, taking Amari Rodgers, kind of just some names that maybe don't pop off here. Josh Myers, reasonably talented lineman, can see some playing time. A lot of people were tweeting, I want to see Rodgers throw to Rodgers. Who knows if Rodgers is going to be there next year. Eric Stokes, to me, was a 3rd-round talent, went in the 1st round. Who the hell even knows? I mean, it's kind of hard to be nice about it when the Green Bay Packers don't exactly seem like they know what they're doing. So
I actually have the latest scoop on the Green Bay Packers. I actually got a photo of their draft board. You guys want to see it?
Yeah.
Can you guys see that?
Let's piss off Rodgers.
I mean,
that's all they do. That's all they do.
Doug, why? With all the rumors and all the stuff that came out on draft day, just draft the receiver to tell people to shut up. I mean, what is Eric Stokes going to do for you? I mean, granted, 1st round, he obviously had a 1st-round grade on him, but just draft another receiver to get Green Bay fans to shut up for a day.
They could have taken Elijah Moore right there.
Elijah Moore was right there. Terrace Marshall didn't get drafted till later on. Tutu Atwell, who actually would have fit their offense really well because they have no speed. I mean, if you look at Green Bay's receivers, they got 6'3" guys who are all possession receivers. No one runs fast. Well, MVS is kind of fast, but he's like the only one. So,
right. All right. So we got the Houston Texans here on the clock.
Do we even care? Do we even care? I mean, do we even care?
Davis Mills, QB2.
Great.
Nico Collins, Brevin Jordan. Yeah, I mean, okay. We're going to move on.
Win more than 2 games, we'll talk about you. I win 2 games this year.
Houston's got some bigger fish to fry over there. The Indianapolis Colts, Kwity Paye going off the board to them. A nice pick for them. Should slot in nicely for that team. Again, they were, they made the playoffs, so you just whatever you do, hope it improves you. I don't have a lot of info on some of these guys that they picked. In the 6th round, they took Sam Ehlinger out of Texas. I'm just against taking QBs. I would just go for undrafted guys at that point in the draft. 6th round, just get another lineman or something, or another edge guy for your team, and just hope it pans out. Like most of these guys in these late picks aren't gonna you're not your 1 in a million Tom Brady picks going 199. So again,
they're just taking a swing.
Yeah.
They didn't draft any tackles, which was interesting, and then they must not really expect Justin Houston back because they used their first 2 picks on edge, and we talked about how big of a need that was. So I think Kwity Paye was the most talented edge rusher off the board, but I think Jalen Phillips was the most complete with the hot. Well, I think Kwity Paye probably has a higher ceiling as an edge rusher than Jalen Phillips.
But Jalen Phillips probably closer to being more.
He's more ready right now. Yeah, absolutely.
And this Dio Ode Yingbo, I kind of read some comps, and he was like potentially a 3rd-round guy. So it looks like they kind of potentially reached a little bit there, but again,
he's good in the run game though, which is what they're going to need because they're not very good on the edge in the run game.
For the Jaguars, it's pretty simple here. They took Trevor Lawrence. You got your guy, and then after that, they did well. They just plugged in guys that are gonna have positions. James Robinson. So I thought about this, right? Okay, well you have James Robinson, right? But Travis Etienne and James Robinson can be a dynamic duo together and take a lot of pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. So I kind of like the pick now that I thought about it a little bit more. And hopefully that pushes James Robinson to even be better next year, because he has an obvious competition now in Cam, and Tyson Campbell with the first pick in the second round seemed a little hyped for him to go there. They had several options that they could have went, even going Trevon Moehrig right there, but Walker Little's nice. Andre Cisco I'm gonna talk about later. I like him. So yeah, I think they did really well actually, and I think that has something to do with Urban Meyer. If he might not be a great coach in the NFL for game to game play calling, but for what it's worth, he knows some of these. He probably knows some of these guys a little bit better because he's got connections in with scouts and with other colleges and stuff like that. So
yeah, Tim Tebow's coming to play tight end, baby. So they're good. I don't even know why they drafted Luke Farrell.
Tim Tebow season. Tim Tebow season.
Well, if you watched Luke Farrell play when Urban Meyer was the head coach 2 years ago, it's not a bad spot for him to go. They do need a tight end. They only have James O'Shaughnessy over there, I think. So it's nice to get a player like Luke Farrell. Luke Farrell's pretty good. He's super athletic tight end. He's kind of small. I love the Walker Little pick, offensive tackle from Stanford. You need a guy to protect the blind side. They're not sure if they like Cam Robinson enough, but they gave him the franchise tag, so he'll probably get the boot next season. So it helps. It definitely helps the Walker Little pick definitely helps justifying the Travis Etienne pick. So not a terrible pick. I do like the Luke Farrell one. I'm telling you, I like the Luke Farrell, especially because he played under Urban Meyer.
Andrew, let me tell you something. I like the Trevor Lawrence pick too.
I do too. It's pretty damn good, right?
Are we sure he's going to be ready to go, though? I don't know. Not the biggest guy,
Trevor?
doesn't have the best arm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Here we go. Let's go.
Let me just skip this.
Crushed it. Best use of the first-round draft pick of any team. Best first pick of the first-round draft pick of any team. Nick Bolton's going to come in and compete at linebacker. Creed Humphrey is a road grader who's going to come in and play golf. All good. Noah Gray, super talented. Great receiving tight end, something we haven't had behind Travis Kelce. I mean, we bring in guys like Seals Jones and dudes like that. So Noah Gray, love it. Cornell Powell with size out of Clemson. Trey Smith was one of the steals of the draft in the 6th round. I mean, he told it for you on Twitter. He said, what am I still doing here? Big time draft by the Kansas City Chiefs. No bias.
I'll say that I do actually like Cornell Powell. He has potential to. I would say give him a couple of years and compete for your number 2 wide receiver position, because you need that wide receiver 2 behind Tyreek Hill in the future. So yeah, nice draft though.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, you got anything on that? Or did I just get excited?
Nah, you got excited for both of them. I'll say something about Cornell Powell. I like the Cornell Powell thing. Those are the kind of receivers you're going to see them going after with their the Chiefs with their X receivers. They've done it with Jeremy Maclin and now with Sammy Watkins and now with Cornell Powell. The guys who were just barely over 6 feet, about 215 pounds, can run good routes, create separation with their physicality, and get the extra hard yards by really laying their body in the line. And so I like the Cornell Powell pick a lot. And then the Trey Smith one was just couldn't believe he fell that far. Some medical issues, and again, the medical issues are going to play a factor in a lot of these guys because not as much coverage in terms of the medical processes as there would be in normal drafts. But yeah, it was a good draft. This is where we have some problems. Okay. No, well, not me personally, but
you know what? We were gonna wait till the later part, the second part of our show to give our teams that we thought drafted poorly. I'm just gonna step in right now, and I'm gonna give mine. The Las Vegas Raiders drafted terribly. Okay, they drafted Alex Leatherwood, right, with the 17th pick. I said he was gonna go in the first round. Okay, I had him 15 picks later to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So in all likelihood here, it's a reach, right? And I agree, it's a reach. They could have gotten him later. Trevon Moore fell to their draft position. They traded up to get him. Andrew mentioned that earlier. Kind of silly when you could have just taken him and then taken Alex Leatherwood and might not have to jumped up. Okay, I get it. Whatever. You made a couple of choices. It was day 1 and day 2. But then they continued to get 2 more safeties after they already got one. They have 8 safeties on their roster. They drafted
not
3.
to mention they signed Carl Joseph in the offseason, which
They
I
got
just don't
Carl
get it.
Joseph. Trevon Moorig's not even like gonna start because they have 3 guys already ahead of him. Alex Leatherwood isn't he known as the meme connoisseur? Like, right? Wasn't he the
That
guy?
was his yeah.
Okay. Where's the Nick Young like confused meme? Throw that in here. And then I looked at every one of their picks, and I'm gonna tell you, I was like, could have been better. Could have been better. And okay, and this is the cherry on top, right? Jimmy Morrissey, their last pick, 7th round, 230th. Got it. You just picked whoever was out there. They already have 3 centers on their roster. This guy's probably going to be a center. Like, didn't make any sense whatsoever. The Las Vegas Raiders were a playoff potential team last year. Kid you not, they were 8-8 or whatever. They had a chance to make it into the wild card. You're not going to do it with shit drafts like this. So I
Raiders
gave my
Raider, man.
I gave my
No. Here's what they're gonna do. It's a new it's a new defensive personnel style, right? You got dime, you got nickel, you got your base 4-3-3-4s. They are gonna run, right? 8 safeties out there. It's just gonna run a bunch of safeties out there. No D lineman, no corner, no linebacker, just 8 safeties. New hybrid package that Mayock and Gruden are working up. They're just smarter than everybody else, dude. That's what it is.
It just gets me my blood boiling. But yes, you're right. Okay, the Los Angeles Chargers here. Rashawn Slater, great pick. Asante Samuel Jr., great pick. Josh Palmer, role player. A lot of nice picks here. Okay, let me calm down, and I'm gonna go again. I'm just going off the wall here. Okay, I'm gonna calm down. I thought the Chargers drafted well. Okay, last year with the worst offensive line in the last like 5 years. This team's offensive line literally was terrible. Justin Herbert still managed to get 4,300 yards, 36 touchdowns, and show out as rookie, offensive player of the year, right? He was incredible last season, and he had no one to block for him. And Keenan Allen was injured all the time, okay? So, like, that, in comparison, just getting Rashawn Slater, to me, was good enough for them to just jump up, because Rashawn Slater is, on some boards too, was over Penei Sewell. Again, I don't agree with that, but that's the type of like tackle he was, being mentioned as. Day 1 starter if they want him to. Josh Palmer is a role guy, but with Justin Herbert being who he is, I mean, I'm okay with a role player being elevated, because like Darnold Parham Jr. on that team, right? He can elevate him. Someone who's maybe, not the greatest everyday guy into someone that is usable. 12 of their 16 games last year were just decided by 7 points. Wins and losses, right? They fell apart at the end of games, or Drew Lock, Team Cheeky over here, was able to get a miracle playoff against them. They had so much bad luck last season, right? And I think what they did was by getting Asante Samuel Jr., who's a dog, like this guy's he's gonna bring some toughness, kind of Buda Baker like, and just not linebacker, right? He's a cornerback, but still like kind of that intensity that I think he could be a playmaker for them on defense. And then in order to win those close games, right, you need a difference maker on the other side of the ball. So Asante Samuel Jr. could be that for them. Hope it is. Real quick, Trey McKitty, don't know if he's going to pan out. Maybe he's the next Hunter Henry. Who knows? Isn't the most talented. Got nice hands. That's kind of what I have to say about that. And Larry Roundtree at the bottom there. They like to run the ball here in Los Angeles, so I'm okay with them just adding more depth because they had a lot of injuries last season with running back. So Larry Roundtree out of Missouri is a nice runner for the value they got him with the 6th round pick there. So, yeah.
Yeah, they might look to bring back Melvin Ingram too. They drafted Chris Rumph at the edge from Duke. Not, the most explosive edge player, so they might bring back Melvin Ingram in the offseason, but not a terrible draft. They were really lucky to get Rashawn Slater, and Asante Samuel, like you mentioned, is a very good player.
And they got
really good value.
Right here. They got Asante Samuel with the 47th pick, right? So, I mean, that's good value for sure. And
Yeah,
Rashawn
didn't think
Slater
either of them would be there.
Rashawn Slater fell to them at 13. Potentially shouldn't have been there too. If Penei Sewell goes sooner, maybe Rashawn Slater goes sooner too. For sure, they knocked it out of the park with their first 2 picks on value and I think on potential contribution. And they got to face the Chiefs, right? So any way you dice it, if they're not in contention for the first spot, this could be a wild card team next season. So I'm gonna be all in on the Chargers if they if they don't have that bad luck as they had last.
You just
season.
want someone to beat the Chiefs. Move it on.
Moving
Get out
on
of here.
Moving on
No,
here,
just
folks. So the Los Angeles Rams here taking Tutu Atwell. Kind of confusing. They didn't have a first round pick. Not a good wide receiver. Just not sure if they maybe should have went lineman first to block for Stafford. But yeah, Bobby Brown, nice big guy, defensive tackle there from Texas A&M. And then yeah, I mean I don't love this draft by them, but I'm not 100% sold on a lot of these names here. But
It's the first time since the 1950s that 2 people named Ernest were taken by the same team.
Ernest and Ernest.
I made that stat up.
I was like, what kind of stat is that? Dude,
I made it up.
Hey, Tutu Atwell can fly. And we were talking about it the other day. I mean, dude's gonna run these jet sweeps in this oh my god, I almost blanked on his name. Sean McVay offense, and I mean, dude is like a sub 4.4 dude, so that's definitely what he's for.
So I'm with you. I like Speedster. Maybe he can turn into Tyreek Hill light one day. Who knows? Probably not. But Tyreek Hill is not just Speedster.
Speaking of Tyreek Hill light,
I got it.
No. Speaking of Tyreek Hill light, get right to him right here. Apparently, Jalen Waddle's comp is Tyreek Hill. I didn't know he's just gonna come into the league and start running faster than everybody else, because that's what Tyreek Hill does. So if you're gonna comp somebody to Tyreek Hill, he better be the fastest player, I don't know, on the planet.
Andrew, I agree. Andrew, this is the first time in 50 years that any team has taken 2 guys named Jalen. So Jalen and Jalen right here off the board, 1 and 2. So the Miami Dolphins had 2 first-round picks. Took Jalen Waddle, great wide receiver out of Alabama. Took Jalen Phillips with their second pick. Nice pick, great pick. Javon Holland was taken above Trayvon Moore. Cool. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Liam Eichenberg has potential for them to start right away. Hunter Long adds more depth behind Mike Gesicki. So, all in right here. I mean, I think their first 5 picks are nice. I think they were a borderline, they were not, I don't think they were a borderline playoff team last year. And this seems like it's going to help their case and maybe help elevate to I don't know.
Yes. So Liam Eichenberg, that pick makes the Jalen Waddle makes more sense if they really liked Liam Eichenberg and didn't think there was like a huge difference between Penei Sewell and Liam Eichenberg. That's the only way that you can swallow that Jalen Waddle pick at 6, because I think that was a little bit of a reach. I had Devontae Smith over him personally. So they must have just fell in love with Jalen Waddle. Apparently, he was their number 1 receiver on their big board above Jamar Chase. I can't believe that, right? Like Andrew's face right there. I cannot believe that. There's no shot.
Maybe they're not all in on Tua then, because you would have addressed your tackle right away with the 6th pick.
See, but I think that's how you evaluate Tua best, by getting a I mean, godly, how many weapons do you need on an offense? Well, I mean, they already have Parker.
Most games last year, he didn't throw a lot until the last couple of games of the season where he was just tossing because they were losing. They needed they needed to come back against the Bills, and there was one other team. But yeah, so not the best coached year last year for them. I think they still have some deficiencies on the team that isn't necessarily specific to the roster, because I think roster wise they have a pretty good team. I think more of their talent has to be evaluated and controlled on the higher levels, and I think that's where
I like Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores is a good coach. I mean, I think that Dolphins team was going to be kind of all right, and then they were pretty good last year from what I saw.
Yeah, they were 10-6, I think. I mean, so or 11-5, right there. Right, they were literally right at the door. They had a chance. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's because I watched 2 of their games last season against the Bills, and a little bit is too I didn't like how they ripped the Band-Aid off of putting in Tua last year. I get it. They won some games behind the kid. They pulled off like 4 straight. I get it. But I think Ryan Fitzpatrick had a couple beautiful games last season and got sniped because they wanted to bring in their rookie in sooner. The last play, like one of the last plays of Fitzpatrick's career, he can't even see the ball because his helmet is this way, and he throws a spot-on pass, which is caught. Again, they've had some injuries. We'll see how we'll see how they fare, but they did good. They did good this draft. They did good. The Minnesota Vikings. I liked what they did here. I'll talk a little bit about them in a little bit. But yeah, Darisaw, nice pick. They traded back, got him there. Can't speak more about that. Kellen Mond, a nice starter in Texas A&M. Played there a few years. So QB2 right off the bat. But yeah, they have some depth here because they had so many draft picks, and part of that is because they decided to move back in the draft, so they got some extra draft picks.
Yeah, I think they had one of the better drafts in the NFL, so we'll get to them a little bit later.
Yeah, and then the New England Patriots here got Mac Jones, fell to them 15. Christian Barmore, defensive tackle there, fell to them at 37. So nice picks for the value of where they got them. Ronnie Perkins, nice edge guy, was falling on the board for a little bit though, so there might be something hiding behind the scenes that we don't know about.
The big edge guy.
Yeah, he's huge.
And then Ramondre Stevenson is a nice running back at Oklahoma. I was
kind of surprised by that when they have Damian Harris and Sony Michel in the backfield and James White. So not sure why they go running back in the 4th round, but
don't be surprised. Just know for every DFS slate from now to the end of eternity, never play a freaking New England Patriots running back unless there's only one available. Literally, don't even bother. Don't even bother. Right. It's not even worth it.
We will move on to the Saints here.
Blech. A whole lot of blech.
What are we doing? The head scratcher day one with Peyton Turner. I like Pete Werner a lot. Ian Book, throw out the book on this one. It's not hard. Don't need to study this one up. Just don't draft the guy. He's not athletically great. Just why waste a 4th round pick? It's just annoying. Like, this team doesn't know what the hell they're gonna do with quarterback next season, and then they go and draft Ian Book. Like, what the hell are you doing, New Orleans?
Oh, they know what they're doing. They're gonna have Jameis Winston go out there and throw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. That's
It's just like, here,
solid.
Tampa Bay, here, win the division for the next 3 years because Tom Brady's never gonna retire, and here you go.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted Peyton Turner, who has a low ceiling. If you're going to get an edge rusher in the 1st round, you probably want him to rush the passer. He doesn't do that. He's better in the run game. So go off, New Orleans, that away. Good job.
The New York Giants here. They took Kadarius Toney with the 20th pick. Maybe a little high for him, but a nice pick. They traded back with the Chicago Bears, so originally they had the 11th pick. Azeez Ojulari was a nice value pick for them at 50. Aaron Robinson, another cornerback that I was looking for the Buffalo Bills to take. I liked what I saw out of Aaron Robinson. And then Gary Brightwell, running back, 6th round, has potential to slot in pretty early on there and make some headway because their running back room was just crap last year with the injuries and whatnot. Squad Con Barkley is coming back. But
Saquad, baby.
Saquad Barkley is coming back. But, it's a 17-game season. You got to have a little bit more depth there, so I like what they did with that pick. We'll move it on. The New York Jets.
I don't even know. The only thing I'm going to say about the Giants, I don't know why they traded with the Bears. They should have either taken Justin Fields at 11, or they should have either taken, and I know that's an unpopular pick, but if they were going to or Rashawn Slater, who was still on the board. And I know offensive line
should have taken Justin Fields. Michael Parsons stay there.
Justin
Fields for the Giants.
I would have more liked them to see taken Rashawn Slater at that spot, but I'm just like from a best player available standpoint, because I don't really love the Kadarius Toney pick. I know, Jay, you're a big fan of Toney. I'm not a big fan of him so far from what I've seen, especially not as a 1st round grade. But at number 11, they do whatever they do with their offensive line, and they have Kevin Zeitler and an aging Nate Solder, but I would have personally just stood pat and taken Rashawn Slater at 11. But
I don't think Tony was a huge reach. I think he's really good. I just don't like it.
I don't think it's
I don't
a
like
reach.
it for the Giants. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think you could have got Micah Parsons there. Rashawn Slater's a great call. They could have gotten him for the offensive line that needed a little bit of a boost. So, yeah, I agree with you there. But I think Tony, for being there at 20, I had him going 22 to the Titans anyway. So.
I don't think it's a reach. I just don't like the fit. That's all.
Right. The Jets balled. Their first 3 picks, and even Michael Carter. Yeah, I thought the Jets.
Which
they got
one?
2
Which
Michael
one?
Carter. Yeah, I was gonna say the running back, but yeah, I mean, if you just look at the first 3, I mean, we talked about this a little bit the other day, and this was before they got Elijah Moore. They are doing more for Zach Wilson than they ever sniffed of doing for Sam Darnold.
Well, it's Adam Gase is out of town and Robert Saleh's in town. I was surprised they went offense for the first 4 picks, and then they went defense the rest of the way, which might pan out for them. They gotta they do gotta play defense though. So again, rebuilding team, right? So those first 4 guys have potential to lay the groundwork for them next season, and then maybe next season they get there's some of the early like mocks for 2022. There's probably like 4 or 5 defensive guys that are going to go in the first top 10 picks because the quarterback class next year is not as great as it was this year. So,
I mean, all of a sudden, when you look at this Jets offense, right? Zach Wilson's the quarterback. You have Corey Davis as wide receiver. You have Jamison Crowder. You have Elijah Moore. You have Elijah Vera-Tucker on the front line. You still have Quentin Williams defensively. They're getting C.J. Mosley back. I mean, I don't think they're going to make any noise or anything, but they're going to definitely be better than people think.
They have good pieces around the offense and around the defense. It's Robert Saleh is going to get better things out of them. So they're not vying for the division or anything next season. But yeah, they did well for themselves. We'll give them that for sure. First team to take 2 Michael Carters probably, right? The Philadelphia Eagles here next. Traded up 2 spots to get Devontae Smith. We had him going there, so super obvious fit there. Landon Dickerson to help shore up that offensive line, which wasn't great last season. I think they had some injuries as well. A couple of other picks here that I'm or some of these other picks I'm not 100% sold on. I did look a little bit at Marlon Tupulutu at a USC. But other than that, I'm not 100% sold on if they made themselves better. Look, a lot of these guys are most likely role guys. Milton Williams, I think, was falling on draft boards. Not 100% sure if there's something kind of hidden in the tea leaves there with him. But he was kind of on the big board and falling for a little bit there to them. Landon Dickerson, I had going in the first round to the Steelers. Has to overcome some injuries, but could be nice return value for your longtime center with Jalen Hurts and company there in Philadelphia.
He'll day one start at one of the guard positions for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's probably more appropriate where he needs to be at first. The Steelers here took Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, potentially the top running back, potentially the second best tight end in this draft. So interesting picks for a team that has several weapons on offense. So we'll see how that kind of plays out and plays to their advantage. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I love the rest of the way here. They took a punter. Not sure if you needed to do that, but we'll talk about them a little bit too. The San Francisco 49ers here took Trey Lance. The whole debacle of potentially getting Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? Maybe they'll package Trey Lance and get Aaron Rodgers this offseason. It could happen. We've seen stranger things. Aaron Banks. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Just if you want to know what's going to happen with the Niners for the next 10 years, just look at Trey Lance. Literally, the next 5 to 10 years for the San Francisco 49ers is going to hinge on Trey Lance. They don't have a first-round draft pick until 2025. So, Trey Lance better be the dude, bro. I mean, you were smoke and mirror and everybody. Like, he better be the guy. And, I mean, all indications are that he's a great guy. I mean, I think – and he's got all the measurables. It scares the dickens out of me when you don't have any like film on it. This dude played one game last year, literally one game. If you look at the most like the draft picks for quarterback that have like the least amount of tape, it's not good guys. Like it's Cam Newton, and then it's a lot of Dwayne Haskins and Mark Sanchez's, and it's a scary proposition. It's high ceiling. I mean, it's a real volatile pick there. Good luck.
I don't necessarily love the Aaron Banks pick. He'll be a guard for them, and should do okay. But there was a couple of other guys that I would have liked in that range of in the second round that I thought they could have taken better. So not super impressed with this draft, especially when I look at them taking 2 running backs when they have like 3 on their roster. So
they have 8. They have like 8 of them that are all like they can all go 100 yards every game. Like
they probably should have had some depth for edge too with Joey Bosa dealing. Nick Bosa had dealt with an injury last year, and D Ford can't seem to stay on the field. They should have probably looked to shore up some depth there, but I'm not.
Bro, you know how the Detroit Lions struggle to ever get a running back to like rush over 80 yards? Like these dudes have like 4 of them do it every season. Every season, there's 4 San Francisco 49ers running backs that rush for 100 yards in a game.
It's true. Seattle Seahawks here had 3 draft picks. Took Dwayne Eskridge, who's actually
reach.
I like Dwayne Eskridge. I think he could be a good wide receiver in the league. He's really fast. Trey Brown, Stone, Forsyth. I don't think there's enough here for us to really like say they did terrible or say they did well. Again, not necessarily sure where they kind of stand going into next season. Let Russ cook season 2.0. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. Joe Tryon, it was a nice pick for them at 32. Kyle Trask gets to sit behind Tom Brady for a few years. I'm sure he's happy about that. And then they just kind of filled in some spots on the roster. Jalen Darden is a nice wide receiver out of North Texas. I'm sure Hainsey out of Notre Dame is decent. I mean, most guys coming out of Notre Dame.
Any lineman from Notre Dame, just tried to. Andrew, you were mentioning it the other day that a lot of NFL GMs have come to like the consensus that the Notre Dame offensive linemen, right, are like the most polished in every draft, pretty much, right? Didn't you mention something like that?
Yeah, Tom Pelissero did a story on it on NFL Network and talking about how like a lot of the scouts that he speaks to directly recommend Notre Dame offensive linemen because of the physicality they're coached up with and the kind of the technique and just how well their games have translated to the NFL, especially playing against instead of a pro style offense at Notre Dame. So definitely they end up being pretty high on people's draft boards every year usually. So you'll definitely see a lot of Notre Dame offensive linemen always being selected.
For sure. The Titans here took Caleb Farley in the first round. Dylan Radins fell a little bit in the second. Scooped him up there. I mean, they were a team that needed some offensive weapons because some of their offensive weapons left, and then they waited until day 3 to kind of address that. So a little questionable, in my opinion. Caleb Farley's a nice pick. Has dealt with some injuries. Should overcome them for what it's worth, but something, a red flag potentially there. And at 22, there were potentially some playmakers they could have taken. Dylan Radins, they could have swapped for Pat Freiermuth at that moment too, since they lost Jonnu Smith to the New England Patriots. Again, Elijah Molden, nice cornerback out of Washington. I don't hate what they did. I just think that they could have addressed some of their needs sooner than day 3.
I like them getting Farley. I think Farley's a great addition on the outside. They lost to Dory Jackson last year. And then Dylan Radins, he's going to try to make amends for the Isaiah Wilson debacle. I think he played 6 snaps for the Titans. So, right. Dylan Radins protected Trey Lance's blind side. So, again, not a lot of tape on this guy. A little more than on Trey Lance. But, I think they did all right.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Washington football team here, Jay called Jamin Davis nailed that pick in his mock. Took Sam Cosmi in the second round. Nice pick. Diami Brown in the third round. Nice wide receiver out of North Carolina. Has had a ton of draft picks. Took a bunch of guys. So for what it looks like, a team that has a lot of pieces now and just needs to put some effort out there. They were a playoff team last year, won a playoff game last year, so they have a a potentially set up here to do well again next season. Maybe just missing the
I thought they had a great draft, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
even with Fitzpatrick, I thought they did really well. There wasn't like a quarterback that stood out or really a trade that stood out for them to go get. I guess if they really like Justin Fields, they could have worked the deal kind of like Chicago did with New York. But I think Andrew's going to touch on it. I think they nailed it. I really do. I think Ron Rivera did a great job in his first draft there. So, or is this his second draft there? Am I wrong on that? Is it second draft?
Second draft, yeah.
Yeah, second draft there. Second draft.
And I think that was it here. So we'll pull away from that, and then we can kind of give you some of our takes. We already heard from me. I gave you one of my teams that drafted well, and I gave you one of my teams that drafted poorly. It was the Chargers that drafted well, the Raiders that drafted poorly. Let's go over to Jay, who also thought the Raiders drafted poorly, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, cheeky. So I love the Trevon Moore pick. They got lucky. I mean, I know they moved up for him, but he fell into their laps. No reason they should be there. And then they draft 2 more safeties, like Asa mentioned. They're going to run that hybrid 8 safety defense, I suppose. Yeah, Alex Leatherwood was a ridiculously big reach. Don't know why. I mean, Mel Kiper tried to rationalize and say, "Oh, I've been with John Gruden for a long time. You know, they like to draft football guys," and used all the coach speak you could possibly speak up. No reason he should have gone there. Then they reached with their other 2 safety picks. I mean, there was at least 4 offensive linemen that I would have taken over Alex Leatherwood there. It didn't make a lot of sense for me. They revamped their entire offensive line. And by revamp, I mean got rid of all the good players and kept all the bad ones. So great job, Raiders. Love seeing that as a Chiefs fan. So
Literally.
Raiders
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, Darisaw, Eichenberg, Cosme, and Jenkins. They overlooked all of them for Leatherwood.
I mean, you could have gone even if you want to go interior, like Dickerson is there, and Dickerson was way better. I mean, there were this head scratcher, bro. And we've seen them do this before. Like they went Cleveland Farrell and immediately had to defend Cleveland Farrell. If Cleveland Farrell was worth being drafted where you drafted him, there's no need to defend him. You drafted him there. Okay. Alex Leatherwood, Asa had him at the very back end of 1. I had him not sniffing mid 2, bro. Like, I mean, just don't get it. A lot of people thought he'd have to move to guard. So, I mean, yeah, just didn't get that pick at all, bro. Didn't get that at all.
Andrew, what about one of your bad teams that drafted, or one of your teams that drafted poorly?
I think the Dolphins actually kind of like they filled a couple holes. They got like some needs, but I don't like the way they went about it. They went with Liam Eichenberg in the second round, which I thought you could have gotten Penei Sewell in the first round and still gotten Jalen Phillips at 18, and then possibly gotten a wide receiver that would just pair a little bit better with who you have on your in your personnel. They signed Will Fuller to a 1-year deal, so maybe Jalen Waddle they like him so much and they wanted to be the contingency plan to be that deep threat for Tua Tagovailoa. But the problem with Tua, as we saw, like targeting his receivers last season when Devontae Parker specifically and Preston Williams were hurt, was his ability to use the middle of the field. So a guy like Rondale Moore would have been like a more sensible pick in my opinion. A guy like even like a Terrace Marshall Jr., like just a bigger bodied guy, like to get to be for Tua to be able to throw to. Jalen Waddle stretches the field. That's all great and dandy, but that's not really where Tua makes his bread and butter. He's more of a middle of the field, work the short to intermediate routes really well. That's what he was known for at Alabama, really his accuracy. So I like a little bit of what they did. Drafting Javon Holland was so weird to me. Again, another situation where you pass up a safety for Trevon Moore goes on the board. They're adding Javon Holland to a group of already like super talented secondary players and Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, who both play corner, but still just a good secondary group. The health concerns of Jalen Phillips are kind of over. He's probably going to end up being one of the most talented players out of this draft. To get to the quarterback, he'll pair nicely with Emmanuel Ogbah. I just don't understand like the thought process in it. I think they could have been a lot more efficient with what they did. I like Waddle, but again, it's kind of hard to project that just because he has speed that he's going to come into the NFL and be that next Tyreek Hill like they're projecting him to say. Or like, can he run the routes? Can he get open against man coverage without playing with Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs playing opposite? Like, it's real easy to just run by people when you're always single covered. Like, there's going to be a plan, and they better have a good way of addressing it. Because if it were up to me, like I said, I would have gone Sewell at 6 overall, Phillips dropped to 18. Waddle could eventually be the number 1 wideout, but I don't know. I would have much rather liked to get that. Like Rondale Moore, for me, they could have gotten the second round. I'm going to mention his name. The Cardinals picked him up. He's a great yards after the catch guy. He's great in the short and intermediate, and great in the short route running. I think he would have been perfect for the Dolphins, especially exactly what they would have been looking for. So I don't really like what the Dolphins did here.
The more we talk about the Dolphins, the more I think that they're showing their hand a little bit about what they really think about Tua, right? I think they think of Tua as a distributor and not really much of a playmaker. So you have to get guys like Will Fuller, who could take the top off, and Jalen Waddle, who's a guy who could take a 1-yard screen pass and take it 80 yards. And I think that's what they were kind of looking at. Having Sewell there would have done a lot for them. But again, I think that maybe their grade differential between him and Eichenberg wasn't all that different. And they saw the explosiveness that Waddle gives them and, saw that there was really nothing like that left in the draft. That's what I guess they can talk themselves into. But that's the only reason why I'm right there with you that I could see them doing what they did. So,
I'll do my second team that I thought drafted poorly is the Arizona Cardinals. They were right on the precipice of making the playoffs. A couple of close games that they played. They went 2-4 against their division last year. Won the first 2, lost the last 4. They needed a playmaker on defense. And what did they do with their first pick? They got Zaven Collins. Okay, 16th pick, took Zaven Collins. A little bit of a reach, but they don't need help with the linebacker. You know what they need? They need cornerbacks. They have 2 open positions. Let me ask you guys real quick. How many snaps do you think Arizona's current cornerbacks played last season for them? It's 0. It's 0. And how about the 2 seasons ago? 0.
Didn't even let me answer.
They have no guy on their roster that has played cornerback for them the last 2 years, and they didn't get a cornerback. Again, maybe they didn't want Farley. Maybe they didn't want Greg Newsome. They were right there, though. They should have. Or trade back. They could have probably still gotten them if they did that. As Andrew's mentioning, Rondale Moore, nice wide receiver. I get it. I don't know if Kyler's fantastic, though. Like, why give him, like, the short game guy, which he might already have with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk can take the top off, too, but they could have even drafted a better wide receiver to fit Kyler. They have to play against Russell Wilson, right? The Seahawks weren't great last season, but Russell Wilson gets you 10 wins, and that's what happened. Russell Wilson got them 10 wins. 10 wins, I think. Anyways, who did they? Why didn't they get someone that could like prevent Russ from cooking? Russ is just gonna cook again next season, and I don't know. I mean, Kyler Murray just got another role player with Rondale Moore, who will fit in a nice role. I don't like their first 2 picks. The quarterback take enough just gets my blood boiling. We'll move on to your guys' last choices here, though.
Interesting about the Cardinals. I thought they were pretty okay. I didn't mind it too much, but I can see what you're saying.
I was thinking corner first. That's the only thing I'll say.
Well, once J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain were off, you'd have to, you're either talking yourself into Farley or Newsome. Newsome ended up sliding a little bit. Farley not so much, but I thought they would have honestly all of them would have been reaches if they would have went Farley, if they would have went Newsome or taken Collins. I think is a reach a little bit too. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did an awful job. Sorry, Nina. Sorry, Marcus. They stink. So they went ahead and they grabbed. You go ahead. You draft the best. You draft the best running back in the draft. You have no offensive line to help him with any of that. Villanueva's out. Marquise Pouncey's out. You could have gotten any of between. So then, right. You get your lineman, right? You get your linebacker. You get your linebacker. You get your running back. You get Najee, right? Then with your next pick, you get Freiermuth, the tight end from Penn State. You could have had Creed Humphrey. You could have had Josh Myers. There were 2 other linemen that came off the board in the 3rd round that I thought they could have easily taken over Freiermuth.
Jalen Mayfield, a couple picks away too.
Jalen Mayfield, the tackle from Michigan, I think was right there. They could have taken him. So it just a whole lot of weirdness to me. Freiermuth is a receiving tight end. I guess I know Eric Ebron led the league last year in tight end drops, but that's not enough for me to want to sign Freiermuth.
If they had jumped up 2 picks, they could have gotten Dylan Radnuns. They could have jumped up like 3 or 4 picks, and they could have gotten Sam Cosmi too. So.
Yeah. For a team that is like the Pittsburgh Steelers and who loves to run the football prior to the last 5 years, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense for me.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Andrew?
My other team was the New Orleans Saints. I think they I just don't like who their defensive selections sometimes. Like they sometimes they hit it out of the park, and then sometimes they leave me really head scratching. Like when they drafted Marshawn Lattimore, huge. Marcus Williams has been a great pick for them as well. He wasn't a first round guy, but he was a late draft selection that panned out. I just don't understand after drafting Marcus Davenport a few years ago, and I mentioned this to you guys before, that Marcus Davenport had a problem in college staying healthy, and they drafted him and in the first round, and they kind of expected him to be healthy when he got to the NFL. I don't think that makes a ton of sense, especially for edge guys. Like I'm not exactly sure what Marcus Davenport was dealing with in terms of injury, but just to give you an example, Peyton Turner missed 8 games his freshman year, 4 games his sophomore year, 3 games his senior year in his collegiate career. And Jay mentioned it earlier. He's a run stopper. He's not a get after the quarterback kind of guy. They in an offseason too, where they lost Sheldon Rankins and Malcolm Brown, who play interior defensive line. They had Christian Barmore staring them right in the face at 28, and they go with a guy who's a bit unproven and doesn't really get to the quarterback as much as you would want. I don't know. And the Pete Werner one is cool. I mean, he's a decent linebacker from Ohio State. They had a chance to probably get Nick Bolton, but I think they could have also gotten maybe a Joseph Osai or a Carlos Basham had they passed on edge in the first round. And the Ian Book one, they have money tied up in Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. Those are the three picks that just really kind of were head scratchers to me. Ian Book probably won't see the field for a little while because obviously Taysom Hill's making about $15 million. Jameis Winston's making $5 million, so one of them has to play. I just didn't really like what they did there. Not a big fan.
You drafted poorly.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the positives here. I already talked about the Chargers. My last team here that I thought drafted well was the Minnesota Vikings. On the precipice of becoming a playoff team, now more than ever with Aaron Rodgers possibly even retiring. They had a pretty bad offensive line last year. They got Darisaw and Wyatt Davis at steals. Like they dropped back to get Darisaw, and then Wyatt Davis could be a guard for them next season too. They drafted Kellen Mond with their second pick, QB2 right off the bat. Some nice experience there. Chaz Surratt and Patrick Jones and Janarius Robinson, they're all linebacker edge guys for them. I think maybe year 2, these guys could all be starters. Surratt and Patrick Jones have a little bit more explosiveness than Janarius Robinson, but I think all 3 make the roster. 2 out of the 3 probably contribute on special teams this season. They got 11 guys in this draft. I think they reached on a couple, but I mean 9 out of 11 picks is not bad. That I agreed with, and they set up some weapons for Dalvin Cook, who is probably going to be the best running back in the next like 5 years. Like Derrick Henry will be trailing off, and I think Dalvin Cook takes that torch from him, being the best running back for this next decade probably. So I like what they did there, and they totally have a shot now to win the division if Aaron Rodgers is bye. So
yeah, you are a smart, wise, handsome man. I 100% agree. So the Vikings traded their number 14 pick and the number 143, which is in the 4th round, to the Jets for the 23rd and then 2 third-round draft picks. I apologize. As you mentioned, they still got their guy in Christian Darisaw. That offensive line last year, you're being a little nice. We'll rip them here. They were terrible last year, especially at the guard. Oh, my God. Absolutely ridiculous. Wyatt Davis is going to come in and road grade for Dalvin Cook in the middle of the field there. Dude is a phone booth guy, so if you're going to ask him to pull and stuff, he may struggle there a little bit. Got to get a little more flexibility in the hips, as Andrew has mentioned, a little hip fluidity on these pull blocks. But boy, Wyatt Davis is going to be a monstrosity. Love the Chaz Surratt pick. I love what you mentioned him. Plays linebacker, former quarterback. Listen, I love players that formerly played quarterback, even if it was only in high school. Like the fact that they're able to understand what the quarterback is looking for half the time makes it huge for them when they transition positions. So I think the Vikings knocked it out of the park, bro. They got 2 starting offensive linemen and some depth on a couple of positions of need. So I think the Vikings did a really good job.
I'm with you on that. Obviously, we picked the same guys. Andrew, last, give me your best team here.
Yeah, I really like what the Denver Broncos did. To be honest with you, Jay mentioned that they could have gone Micah Parsons. They do need linebacker help here, but they went with the best available cornerback on the board, Patrick Surtain the second. We've talked about him on the show before. He's just an absolute stud of a stud of a defensive back. He's the best pure corner in the draft, in my opinion. J.C. Horn has a bit of upside, but I think Surtain here is going to be the better overall pro, in my opinion. Where I really like their draft is Javonte Williams and Quinn Miners. Javonte Williams is a guy who's probably going to see a lot of time. They were already planning on splitting time with Melvin Gordon, who's in the last year of a contract and facing a suspension. They were already going to split time with him and Phillip Lindsay, but Phillip Lindsay's gone with the door, so I'm not surprised to see the Broncos take a running back here. Well, in his time when he was with Michael Carter at North Carolina, Javonte Williams racked up 1,400 yards and scored 19 touchdowns last season for the Tar Heels. So super productive. And where he really makes his bread and butter is leading. He led the FBS in broken tackles. He had like 38 broken tackles last season. Just absolutely absurd. He's got some. Yeah, he's got high end speed. He's a bruiser of a runner. And then you add in a guy like Quinn Miners to you saw, you have that progress you saw from Garrett Bowles at the left tackle position. They're getting back their other right tackle. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's very good. Their right tackle, he opted out last season, didn't play because of COVID concerns. So getting Quinn Miners to play in the middle of that offensive line is a really nice draft and a draft spot for him, especially in the third round. Someone projected him to be in the early second round, maybe late second round because of his ability at the Senior Bowl and because of his belly. Just kidding. But of their 10 picks this year, 7 of them came on the defensive side of the ball, which shouldn't come as much of a surprise. There it is. Considering
no, it's glory.
Yeah. Considering Vic Fangio spent a lot of time in the NFL as a defensive coordinator. 4 of them play defensive secondary. So clearly they're doing something here that they think that they need to really prep for the quarterbacks that are in their division, which I don't blame them for. And Drew Lock obviously hasn't been the guy that they thought at quarterback just yet, maybe another year, but they traded for Teddy Bridgewater. So if they really need to wait another year to get a quarterback, they can slot in Teddy Bridgewater and just ride out the storm. But I do like what they did. I think they got a lot of good pieces for a lot of good value.
Gotcha. And you guys still have one more best team, right?
Yeah, I'll just go quick because we kind of talked about it already. It was the Cleveland Browns. They were able to get Greg Newsome with their first-round pick, and then they were able to go ahead and get Owosu, who I think is a stud and was really undervalued. Don't know how he was there at 52. They also added some offensive line depth with James Hudson from Cincinnati. And then also the slot receiver Anthony Schwartz from Auburn. Dude can fly. They already have quite a bit of receivers, but AC, you already mentioned him. Dude is an absolute speed demon. And then Tommy Togiai from OSU, the defensive lineman, plays 3-tech, 88% run grade on PFF and a 72% pass grade. So he'll be able to do some things on the interior defensive line.
Want to take us home, Andrew?
Yeah, my other team was the Washington football team. I thought they did really well grabbing Jamin Davis. Ron Rivera loves linebackers, especially those that can play all 3 downs and cover sideline to sideline. It's exactly what Jamin Davis does well. He's been looking for a captain of the defense since he got there last year, and this is a guy that you can slide in and be the quarterback of the defense, make all the calls, and he's playing behind that ferocious offensive line of Payne, Allen, Sweat, and Young. They added some depth at the back end for on the defensive line because Jonathan Allen is in a contract year. So if they do need to make a change there, they did add some depth later in the draft. I do love the Sam Cosmi one as well. And the De'Ami Brown pick, I really love. I thought De'Ami Brown was fell a little low. He fell back into the 3rd round. I thought a 2nd round grade would have been a 2nd round pick for him to come off the board would have probably been best case scenario for him. But he goes to Washington, who could really use a vertical deep threat, and that's exactly what he does. He was the best vertical deep threat in all of college football last season and the season before that, leading all statistical categories in catches, yards, and receptions on go routes, which is just basically get on the line of scrimmage and run. And then Benjamin St. Juste, very underrated pick. I think he's going to be a really good corner for them. It's just adding to that defensive scheme that Ron Rivera is trying to establish over in Washington. So I thought they hit it out of the park, in my opinion.
Nice. Yeah. I think we pointed out like some of the obvious like teams that didn't do so well. Some teams like the Seahawks didn't have a lot of picks, and some teams that kind of kept the same like vibe that they always have. So let's just end real quick with on a positive note with the one guy that we thought was our favorite draft pick, and then we'll say goodbye to the folks at home.
I'll go first real quick. I thought Justin Fields was the best pick of the draft. Can't believe he made it out of the top 10. Chicago traded up to get him. Ryan Pace finally did something good. He's gonna have a number one. He's gonna have a number one receiver, a number one running back, a great offensive-minded coach in Matt Nagy. Again, cannot believe he fell out of the top 10. He threw 6 touchdowns against Clemson in the national title game on a freaking with his back basically broken. Not the national title game. I'm sorry, in the national semifinal against to knock out Trevor Lawrence. So I just couldn't believe he got out of the top 10. Justin Fields to me was the best pick of this entire draft at 11.
Nice. I could go next. Jay had mentioned this guy earlier. I actually have a different opinion on him. Dwayne Eskridge out of for the Seahawks took with the 57th pick, I think it was. This guy, to me, could have possibly went in the second round. But for what it's worth, he's explosive. This guy is faster than DK. He's faster than Tyler Lockett. He can run routes sharply. He's a hard worker, has elite speed. This guy is fast. He lacks a little in-air control of his body. He's got to work on that. Not super tall. Can't do anything about that. Short guys can still be super successful in this league. But he's going to be explosive, I think. And I think let Russ Cook 2.0 season, let this guy play, run around the field. And maybe we'll see Russ Cook next season. All right,
yeah,
take us home, Jay.
For me, I think if you're looking at the value of the pick in terms of talent, in terms of productivity, Azeez Ojulari was on the board for just way too long and fell into the Giants' hands there at 50. He's a guy that I had mocked to the Ravens with their second first-round pick. That's where I could have seen him going, and they got him over at 50. So I think that was a huge get for Dave Gettleman and for Joe Judge in that defense. That's really the spot that they're missing because, their secondary is phenomenal. Their linebacking core is pretty good, and their interior defensive line is pretty great as well with Leonard Williams. So I think Azeez Ojulari is a nice fit for the Giants there at 50.
Okay, well, I think we gave a lot of good content. Hopefully you guys enjoy this on the rewatch. We didn't have a ton of folks here watching, with us today, but we definitely had fun watching the draft together the other day. Had a nice, fun-filled morning and afternoon, and then we got to cap it off with some tasty food and some questionable draft picks. But hopefully you did the same today. You had a good fun part of your first morning, and then when you watch this, and then maybe enjoy some nice burrito action or some hearty pot pie while you watch our episode. But with that being said, all food choices aside, we hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining us. This is the AGA Sports Show. We'll see you guys real soon. Bye.